Hey, welcome to the first episode of Fantasy Football for Dummies. I'm Jason.
And I'm Brett.
We're here to give you tips and strategies how to improve your fantasy game. And also, if you're new to the world of fantasy football, we'll show you how to get started, how to sign up, what app to use, and how to get your team. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, or you need any help with your team, or want to know anything that we don't cover in this video, hit us up in the comments and we'll answer those for you. We'll help you pick the players and who to sit and who to start in this video. So first thing, I'm going to show those who haven't joined a league, who don't have a team, how to get started with fantasy football. The easiest way is the ESPN Fantasy Football app. That's what we use. That's what I'm going to show you here, where to go and how to get that app and how to get started. Okay, so if you're new to the fantasy football world and you haven't yet joined a league, one of the easiest ways to do it is through the ESPN Fantasy Football app. Now you can access this app on the iOS App Store, the Android Store, or on the PC. That's what we have up right now. What we're taking a look at is on the PC. Now there's a couple different options. You can create your own league and invite your own friends to play. That's where you would click on this here. Or you can just go ahead and join a league that's already out there and you'd click on this one. Okay, now that we've shown you how to sign up for ESPN Fantasy Football on the app, we're going to go in and touch base on who we think you should start and who you should sit in each of the positions. We're going to cover the quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, flex, a kicker, and a defense. We're going to hit each of those positions and tell you a starter you should play and someone you should sit if you have them on your team. If there's players that we don't cover that you have on your team that you're kind of iffy about, hit us up in the comments. We'll give you our opinion on those. So let's start off with the QBs. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my starter for week 2 at quarterback. I'm picking Big Ben. Sure, Ben struggled this first week against the Browns, but he's got the Chiefs this weekend, and the Chiefs' defense is vulnerable to him. Last year, he put up 33.9 points on him. I expect Big Ben to have big numbers.
And my week 2 sitter at QB is going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. I know even though he put up 42.3 points last week against a struggling Saints D, this week he's going to go up against the Eagles, a championship-winning defense. Last week they held former MVP Matt Ryan to only 8.8s. I say if you got him, don't put him in there. Sit him on the bench this week. Jordan Howard is going to be my week 2 starting RB1. He put up 15.7 points last week while being out there for 70% of the snaps, and he had 20 carries. This week he'll be going against the once strong Seattle defense. I still see him putting up good numbers, projected 14.6 out there this week.
Okay, so my week 2 running back sitter is going to be Derrick Henry. Derrick only put up 4.1 points in the first week against Miami. This week he has the tough defense in Houston. You got J.J. Watt out there, and Derrick Henry saw 29 fewer snaps than his teammate Dion Lewis. Lewis is going to be their go-to running back. I think if you have Derrick Henry, stick him on the bench. You're not going to get many points with him this week. All right, my week 2 starter at running back, if you got Isaiah Crowell in your lineup, stick him in there again. He had huge numbers against Detroit. Sure, he's not going to put up those kind of runs against Miami, but I see him out there in some goal line situations, and he's going to get some points for you. I see him scoring some couple touchdowns possibly in this game against the Dolphins. So go ahead, stick Crowell in there, and I think you'll come up with some good points.
The next running back I'm going to sit this week is Jamal Williams. He only put up 4.7 points on a heavy workload against the Bears. He had 15 carries and only 47 yards. It's not going to get any easier against the Minnesota Vikings. Don't put him out there. I don't think he's going to get you any points.
All right, so now we're going to go into our wide receivers, who we're going to start and who we're going to sit. Brett's going to start off with who he's going to start this week.
My starting wide receiver is going to be Josh Gordon. He was out there for 78% of the snaps last week against Pittsburgh, and he's coming up against the Saints, who gave up 361 yards and 4 touchdowns to receivers. He's going to have a huge game this week.
Okay, so the wide receiver I'm going to sit this week is going to be Amari Cooper. And I do have him on my team, and he will be sitting. He only got 1 reception against the Rams for 9 yards. He got me 2.8 points. This week, he has Denver. In the last 4 games that he's played against Denver, he's only got 13 catches. So I don't see him doing much more this week. All right, my week 2 starter is going to be Juju Smith. As I said, I think Big Ben is going to have a huge week. I think Juju is going to be one of his primary targets he's going to. He got 5 receptions, 119 yards that first week against Cleveland, putting up 16.9 points. Kansas City's defense isn't anything great. I think Juju's going to have a big game.
This might be quite questionable, but I'm going to sit Davante Adams this week. He's listed as questionable already, and he's going up against shutdown corner in Xavier Rhodes. I don't see him putting up that many points. Sit him this week.
Okay, so now we're going into our tight ends. I'll give you my starter. He'll give you his sitter for the week. All right, so my starter at tight end this week is going to be George Kittle. He put up 14 points in week 1 against Minnesota, a much tougher defense than Detroit. I think he's going to have a huge game. Detroit got blown out in that first game. Everyone was catching and everyone was running down the field. I look for Kittle to put up more points than he did in week 1.
And at sitting tight end this week, I'm going to place Charles Clay there. He had the worst week for a starting tight end, only putting up 0 points. This week against the Chargers, I don't see him doing anything as well. I think they're going to run the ball a little bit more this week. Sit him on the bench. My starter at flex this week is going to be Randall Cobb. I told you earlier in the video that Davante Adams is going to struggle this week against Xavier Rhodes. I think Randall Cobb is really going to thrive on those screen passes that Rodgers throws to him so heavily. Especially if you're in a PPR league, he's going to load up those points on the receptions and probably get a ton of yards.
Okay, so my week 2 sitter at flex is going to be Deshaun Jackson. He had a huge week against New Orleans, 31.6 points. This week they have Philadelphia, Super Bowl winning championship defense. I don't see Fitzpatrick doing what he did in week 1. I think you're going to just sit Deshaun Jackson. I think Mike Evans is going to have a bigger game. Go ahead and sit him. All right, my starter at defense is going to be the Chargers. Granted, the Chargers had a horrible first week, -3 points. This week they have Buffalo, who were awful in week 1. And I don't see any improvement coming from Buffalo this week. I think the Chargers are going to have a huge week, maybe a pick 6 or 2. Play the Chargers.
And my sitting defense this week is going to be the Colts. They put up 5 points against Cincinnati, and this week going into Washington against the new quarterback Alex Smith, they ranked 29th in pressures per dropback last season. I don't see them having a big week. And in your last starting position in your lineup, I'm going to put Greg Zerlin there. He put up 16 points against Oakland last week and projected to get 9.5. I see him going well over that this week against Arizona.
My sitting kicker this week is going to be Matt Prater for the Lions. He went 1 for 3 last week. He came up short. He went wide right. The Lions don't look good. Prater doesn't look good. He only got you 3 points last week. He's going up against San Francisco this week. I don't see anything happening in this game in San Francisco. Sit him. All right, so that about does it for our first episode of Fantasy Football for Dummies. We went over our starters and our sitters for this week. If you have any questions, if you have any players on your team that we didn't cover that you're questionable about, hit us up in the comments below. We'll try to answer those for you the best we can. We'll give you our insights on it and who you should play. If you need any tips on how to sign up, how to get a draft going, how to create your own team, again, hit us up in those comments. We'll answer anything you have to say to us, and we'll see you next week for week 3 of the football season.